Welcome, siblings of the storm, to another Tempest Runner transmission, the show where we talk about everything Star Wars The High Republic. I'm Sam.
I'm Liz.
And I am Mike.
And we will be your Tempest Runners this evening. So, this episode we're going to be talking and discussing about how the Jedi have changed in between the High Republic era and towards the Phantom Menace era and beyond. It's pretty evident that there is a change, that we're witnessing the transformation right now of the Jedi. We are on the kind of knife's edge of where I think things are going to be beginning to change. And, you know, with the Phantom Menace, the Phantom Menace almost seems to me like, and I don't know if you guys would agree, but the Phantom Menace almost seems like the middle ground of what they are in the High Republic and what they become in the Attack of the Clones. The Attack of the Clones is like a very militarized Jedi, you know, let's start a war, we're generals now, not Jedi. So first we'll go to Liz first. Liz, what do you think will be the driving force to change the Jedi from the High Republic era to what we see them more of in the Phantom Menace?
I think mainly it's gonna be the distrust between the Jedi that are currently masters right now. And just in general within themselves, they might start fighting amongst each other. Especially because at the end of Light of the Jedi, we see that one Jedi in the epilogue. He has that vision.
Elzar Man, yeah.
Yeah, he has that vision, and he's telling Avar, right? Did he
right,
tell
yeah,
her?
Yeah.
Yeah, he told her.
Well, he doesn't
her,
know.
Right?
No, he keeps it to himself.
Oh, yeah.
It only happens. I believe it only happens once she walks away, and then he starts like spiraling into this weird vision.
Mm-hmm. I think once he actually does tell her, he's gonna try to keep it hush hush. But I think she might tell someone out of like a warning, or she might tell him he's crazy and they might have a squabble, or she might, like I said before, she might tell the rest of the council and they might see it as just like it can't happen.
Right.
That's impossible. Like, we have everything under control, and then that's what's gonna
the hubris of the Jedi. Well,
yes,
it's
exactly
interesting.
That,
yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned someone like Elzar Man, right? Because the way I see Elzar Man is he's a Jedi that just would not fly in the prequel era of Jedi. They just wouldn't allow someone like that into the Order, and definitely not to become Master. And we see at the end of Light of the Jedi that he actually does finally... there was a bit of distrust because of the way he kind of taps into the Force, and the way he views the Force as like a deep ocean and full of possibilities, and he's very creative with it. But it does seem like the Jedi get more narrow-minded in their approach to the Force. I mean, I think that I have seen people accuse the way the Jedi see the Force, like all the different metaphors of how the Jedi see the Force. I have seen that be accused of being like a shallow change in their philosophy. I don't necessarily think that it's like a super deep one, but I think what it does show is that all the Jedi have a very, very different view. It's a very simplistic way of explaining how the Jedi have different views to the Force, right? Instead of, maybe it's not getting into like, super high philosophy, but it's definitely showing that, hey, we're all different. I see this as an ocean, you see it as a song. Whereas you never get that sense from the prequel era Jedi. And, a Jedi like Elzar Man, there's no way, he's in a sense, he's probably not worse than Anakin. Anakin had, like, serious problems. But in terms of, like, how he views the Force, he's different, right? And
I feel like he's closest to Qui-Gon, if that makes sense.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. Or maybe, what's that Jedi's name in the Clone Wars?
The one who has something for Asajj Ventress, correct?
Yeah, what's his name again?
Quinlan Vos. Quinlan Vos.
Quinlan Vos.
Yeah,
I feel like he's quite similar to Quinlan Vos in a little bit, which obviously, I mean, kind of.
I don't think he's that much of a troublemaker. Because Quinlan was a baddie.
He has not acted on it, but he's got the thoughts.
Yeah, well,
he's
I'm talking
Quinlan
creative. Voss. Yeah, Quinlan Vos pre Dooku corruption. Kind of a little bit, but yeah, maybe Qui-Gon is a fairer, maybe like a younger Qui-Gon, perhaps. But Qui-Gon was also maybe like respected in the Order, but I almost feel like Qui-Gon is like the last representation of like a High Republic Jedi. If you guys would agree
exactly.
with
that. No, yeah, I agree with that fully. Yeah.
Yeah. He doesn't strike me as a way seeker, but he definitely strikes me as like the Legends, analog to a great Jedi. He just seems like so much of a free thinker, and he's willing to skirt the line between light and dark, such that it's like you are a Jedi, but what you're thinking and what you're doing is not really something the Council, at least as it was in the prequels, would approve of. So it definitely, actually, I would agree with that. At first, I thought he was more like a Anakin analog, but I definitely see that now. I definitely think like he and Qui-Gon would be good friends, if not like master apprentice.
Definitely. And the one thing that interests me really is that the trust that they seem to give Jedi. Look, I'm not trying to say there isn't distrust there. Obviously, Elzar Mann, he was only made master in Light of the Jedi, so he was a Jedi Knight for quite a while. So that obviously does show some layer of distrust. I just feel like they would never ever, and Jedi like Keith Trennis as well. You know, would the Jedi Order ever consider knighting anyone like Keith Trennis in the prequel era? I feel like maybe not, and there just seems to be a lot more trust within the Jedi. Now whether that trust will be misplaced, we don't know. Probably not. It seems like it's more of an opposite of, like, you know, the tighter you clench your fist kind of thing, the more whatever. But you know, I just feel like there is a big difference in the freedom of thought in the Jedi Order right now. So Mike, what do you think about the way the High Council runs things? Because there's only one Grand Jedi Master in the now I could be wrong here in thinking that they're all Grand Jedi Masters in the Council scene of Light of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
But also we do also see that Yoda's absent. What do you think that might kind of tell us about Yoda and how he might change?
If anything, it's indicative that the council it's more proactive, and in the High Republic era. Yoda, I think he's there. Well, because in High Republic Adventures, he's off with like his whole band of Padawans and younglings. During and shortly thereafter, the Great Disaster. So, if anything, it tells me that the Jedi are acting more proactively, and they are not as, I guess, doom and gloom and yoga posy as they are in the prequel trilogy. So I guess in that respect, I am more, I guess I'm more impressed, and I really like the Jedi Masters in the High Republic, because it seems like they have as I mentioned, like a very hands-on, dare I say, even like friendlier approach with their Padawans in this era. Most of the Padawans we've seen, or Jedi Knights we've seen in this era thus far, they have like very close, friendly relationships with their master, very akin to what Obi-Wan and Anakin had in the like in the Clone Wars TV show, like where one starts a quip, the other one ends it. If one has a doubt, uncertainty, the other one completes it, which you really don't see with any other Master or Jedi in the prequels.
Right, sure.
But meanwhile, you see that
maybe
here.
We do get a warped perception of what the Jedi, what the Master and Apprentice relationship is like in the prequel era, simply because we mostly see it through the lens of Anakin and Obi-Wan. Whereas, you know, if you look at someone like Barriss and Luminara, it's a very, very different. It's almost like a colder relationship, right? It's like I'm your teacher. You're gonna learn things. We're not. You know, I know that there is obviously like a friendship and a mentorship between them, but it seems a lot more right. You're the learner, I'm the master kind of thing. And
absolutely. Yeah, no, definitely. In the prequels, particularly as to Anakin and Obi-Wan, it seems like the label between them is not necessarily teacher and student. It's like older brother and slightly younger brother. And yeah, it seems much more familiar and much more friendly, and that's very much the case as we see in High Republic with Lode and Greatstorm, and Bell. We see it with Wreath, and oh my God, was it Jorah Mali? I believe Jorah Mali is his master, I believe. Right, and even like Buryaga, and I believe the master's name is Amik or Amek, like to the point where she would go off and learn Shriwug just to better communicate with them and like be a better foil for him. It seems like there's more like older sister, younger brother, older sister, younger sister relationship in the High Republic versus what we see in the prequels. Which then leads me to beg the question: why the difference in relationship in the prequels. Again, assuming that that is indeed the case in the prequels, because as you said, the prequels are mostly through the lens of Anakin and Obi-Wan. So it could just be we've never seen this relationship in the prequels. But
Well, I mean, obviously there's so many different Jedi, so there's gonna be a bunch of different types of relationship. But I feel like if you look at it in terms of the majority of what we see versus in the High Republic versus the prequel Jedi, there does seem to be a big difference. You have you have Loden Greatstorm throwing Bel Zettifar off a off a cliff, right? And
yeah,
things like that, where it's very hands-on
That
approach.
was very questionable.
Yeah, very questionable indeed. But I mean, hey, I mean, it kind of well, it didn't actually really work in the end. But he had the right idea, right? He had the
hmm
idea that he was only going to use his powers when he needed them, when he was in a life and death situation.
absolutely, yeah, definitely. They seem more like the master apprentice relationship in the High Republic. You can see like one is a foil of the other. The other one completes the other. Versus like in the prequels, literally first scene is like Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, and you think, okay, these people are pretty much night and day. You got one person, oh, my allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy. There's only absolute like someone who deals in absolutes as a Sith versus Qui-Gon, who is very much, like way seeker slash gray Jedi mentality. So,
Right.
yeah, foils in one era, not so much in the other.
Definitely, yeah. It's funny, Mike. You were saying about like you feel like the Jedi are more proactive and more, more less kind of sitting in an ivory tower and more out, helping the galaxy. I think although the Starlight Beacon is more of a Republic thing, the fact that there are going to be Jedi temples, like mini Jedi temples in Starlight Beacons, which is going to be more. Well, the plan I believe by Lena So is that they're going to have multiple Starlight Beacons all throughout like the frontier of this exploration in towards the Outer Rim, really does show that the Jedi, they're not just going to be like focused on Coruscant. They're going to be trying to reach out to the rest of the galaxy and show that they're kind of on the same level as them. Where it's the Jedi of the prequel era, to me, they seem like they just. I mean, they don't lock themselves away in Coruscant. They obviously are out helping people, but it just seems like they're way less. Like we're on Coruscant in our nice cushy temple. Um, and even like I don't know. To me, that
So,
there's
like, the way they're depicted in like Clone Wars is more like they only go out to help people when it's requested or they see that they're like literally on the brink of being overturned. Whereas people in High Republic are more like, I don't want to say policing, but they're there regardless if they wanted help or not because
right,
they don't poke their nose as much. It does that make any
right,
sense?
and it doesn't seem as like politically driven either. Like with
Yeah.
you know, the Jedi would obviously help out Republic systems, but they weren't necessarily going into the separatist systems to help out there, and it just seems like, hey, we're gonna help out our guys, but you guys can kind of sort yourselves out.
Yeah, I feel like the Jedi are more of a neighborhood watch than anything.
Yeah, no, that's a really good
Yeah.
yeah, really good way to explain it. So with the Jedi, Luke Skywalker talks about how the Jedi have a hubris about them, about how they kind of believe that if they die, the light dies with them. Do you think that the Jedi of the High Republic era have that mentality, or do you think it's different?
I think they think the same thing. They think that they're helping everyone. They don't see themselves as meddling in people's affairs because there's not really anything to meddle with right now.
Sure, sure.
So I think they are pretty confident that they are doing things for the better and for the good, but I don't think they have the arrogance about them that the prequel Jedi have.
Right,
Yeah,
like someone like Mace, for example, I feel like is the kind of epitome of what.
Was wrong with the Jedi.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the
Yeah.
arrogance, the self-importance, that willingness to kind of almost push the boundaries between light and dark a little bit. I don't think the Jedi were like gonna fall to the dark side, not in like a traditional sense of like fall into anger and hatred and rage, but just the belief that Mace had, where I don't know, maybe that's more of a Legends thing, but there's definitely like an arrogance about Mace, and I just think that he really like represents the downfall of the Jedi. Over someone like Yoda, who had his flaws as a Jedi, don't get me wrong, but definitely felt a lot more in tune with what the Jedi should be for the galaxy, even if he didn't really do enough about it at the time in the prequels.
I feel like Yoda has way more compassion for people of like every faction, if that makes sense.
Right,
And
sure.
like Mace was just like separatist bad for you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah.
He's like, if you're bad, you're bad, and Yoda is there's light and dark, but there is a range of light and dark, if that makes sense.
Sure, yeah.
Like,
Everyone has a
yeah.
dark side in them. You know,
And
everyone struggles with that.
especially with the premonitions in Anakin, how he was kind of counseling him through that. Because,
Yeah.
like, he knew he was on the path. There was something, like, dark that he was struggling with, right? I feel if it was Mace in that situation, it would have gone a completely different way.
Absolutely, it would have done. Yeah.
Yeah, as well as we see in the Clone Wars during the Lost missions, he has that little moment with the what are they called?
The Wills?
Yeah, the Wills.
Actually, I think they're just Force priestesses.
Yeah, no, yeah, they're Force priestesses. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he fights his like evil self.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like that was a whole journey that he went on, and it really shows that he has a lot more compassion for people who are.
I think the end of that arc is him kind of realizing that the dark side is part of him, right? As grand as this Jedi is, you know, everyone thinks of Yoda as like the epitome of light, which you know, by a large part he is. But there is a dark side to him. There is a darkness, and you know, understanding the darkness in yourself helps you understand the darkness in others, and you realize that we all struggle with whatever it is we struggle with, right? In terms
Absolutely.
of like, you know, and Yoda, I think at the end was able to understand that, and I think he also understood that the Jedi were going down a downward spiral.
Right.
Now, the question I have is, does the High Republic mark the beginning of that downward spiral? Put it this way, do you think we're at the end of the good era, or are we at the start of the bad era with the High Republic Jedi right now? What side of the line are we on here?
I think we're in the good era, but this is leading into the bad era. If anything, the purpose of the High Republic is to better juxtapose Luke's point about, you know, the Jedi and their hubris. You know, they let someone as dark as Palpatine took over. Right now, they are. I don't think Luke would disagree or not like this particular era of the Jedi. Perhaps are a little pretentious.
It might even be what he was striving for with his
Ver-
school, you know?
Yeah, very much so. It seems like they're doing good right now for goodness sake, and not so much because, you know, oh, the Sith are back. Now we got to purge the darkness. Very much as you said, like it seems like at the end of that episode, that arc with Yoda, he comes to the realization that the point, well, to be all you can be as a Jedi, it's you should not go out and destroy darkness. It is to embrace the fact that there is darkness even within your own self, and to live with it and to use that for the better good. In this case. Yeah, I think the point of the High Republic is right now there is no darkness per se. There are bad people. There are bad things happening. The Sith are out there, but they're not really actively at work. Right now, this is just a period of good. But come the beginning of, perhaps even the Acolyte, come at the beginning of the Acolyte and the Phantom Menace, this is where you get like the foreshadowing, the hints, the echoes. Ooh, the Sith are back, and then all of a sudden, the Jedi are no longer their High Republic. You know, we're doing good for goodness sake self. This is now the start of the Jedi. Like, oh, our enemy from 1,000 years ago, they are back, and now we must, you know, forsake our what we were doing, which is to be peacekeepers and stay out of politics. Now we're going to be very active in global affairs. Now we got to get rid of the Sith and the Separatists because they're being backed by this Phantom Menace, that sort of thing. So I think right now we're at the good. We're at the example of what the Jedi should be. But and we're going to see slowly how they decline into, you know, the hubris era of the Jedi that Luke was telling Rey about.
Sure. Do you not think there is a slight element of danger that maybe they're slipping into with, you know, I'm sure Lena So has good intentions. I wouldn't mind seeing Lena So maybe become a bit more, I don't know, but maybe like slowly become like corrupt or more like authoritarian with her rule, and maybe she starts off as a good person, but maybe, and that could bring the way she kind of is linking the High Republic with the Jedi. That could be a part of what kind of brings them towards that Phantom Menace era of more of like a dogmatic view of the Force, and just the way they're so tightly woven with the Republic itself. It's not, the Jedi and the Republic in the Phantom Menace era are almost synonymous, but in the High Republic era they are kind of two separate entities, and they're kind of, that even I'm sure that the debate in the council in Light of the Jedi, they're discussing like should we like really help the Republic? Should we really get involved in this? Is it our place to? And that choice to do that, I'm not saying it's the wrong choice necessarily at all. I'm just saying that choice to do that, to me, that could mark the beginning of the new era for them. I think that maybe the war with the Nile, and then whatever enemies and phases come, enemies come in like the new phases, whatever they take form as or manifest as. I think that could be. I think slowly we might start to see the Jedi lose their way a little bit. Because we see we will do an entire episode on Elzar Mann's vision soon, but Elzar Mann, when he sees that vision, he sees it as fear being the enemy of the Jedi, and I think it's the Jedi beginning to give into their own fear that is really going to be the start of the downfall for them.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't want to bleed into that particular episode yet, as that is something
Sure.
that definitely requires its own episode. But
Absolutely.
To the point it is related to this episode, I absolutely agree. Something's going to happen. The Jedi are going to get a taste of fear, and then this whole crusade, if you will, of like, let's do good to do good. Let's work actively with the Jedi. Let's work actively with the Republic, Lena So, and the Great Works Project. Let's go out into the frontier and let's help people. Let's push back the forces of dark. That's going to go away. That's going to change, because for what we see in episode 2 is that, you got Mace Windu, who says we are, peacekeepers, not soldiers. And you see this overall reluctance to get involved in politics and, saber rattling and trying to make enemies, versus here it's like, well, we're doing good to do good. We are being very active.
Sure.
So something's going to happen, and it's going to cause the Jedi to say, we thought we were doing good. We ended up doing bad. Now we're afraid to go down that path again. So we're just going to take a step back from political affairs, or political like galactic affairs, unless it's really, really something we need to involve ourselves in. For sure, fear is going to play a big role in that.
Sure.
Do you think that, because I was reading the description for the Acolyte show, says towards the end of the High Republic era, do you think causes something so that they do step back, and then that's when the Sith kind of like peek their head in, and then they create this elaborate plan, and then suddenly we're in the prequel era sort of thing?
I think that's incredible. Yeah, I think that's incredibly likely. Whatever the Jedi end up doing, whether it's, we don't know for certain what that's going to be yet, though we will share our theories in the Elzar Mann Vision episode, which will be coming out, hopefully within the next few weeks. We'll probably record that one. It's going to be linked to something that will happen at the end of Phase 3, maybe Phase 2. And I think the Jedi will maybe do something that, or they'll act in a way that isn't entirely good. And I think it will be orchestrated a little bit by Marchion Ro, who kind of wants to prove, my kind of big theory is that Marchion Ro wants to prove that the Jedi can actually be, or are actually monsters. And I think something's going to happen, which I just get the feeling that he's going to somehow be the orchestrator behind the kind of fall of the Jedi, or maybe at least highlight why they might begin to fall.
Definitely.
Yeah, he's gonna be like, he's gonna basically be like, oh, you caused this to happen, or something like that.
Yeah,
basically rubbing it in their face, and then they're gonna question themselves, be like, if we acted on this too urgently because someone had a vision and we just assumed that this was happening, like, are we bad? Did we give
in to fear?
Yeah, basically, exactly that. Yeah, did we give in to fear?
So one thing I want to get into a little bit just before we wrap up because we are coming towards the end here. Another thing, I don't know whether this is maybe an oversight in what was said in The Phantom Menace, or maybe like me looking too far into things, or maybe getting the wrong end of the stick. I believe it's Vernestra Rowe, she has like a young Padawan, right? Like a sort of like 10 years old, if I'm not mistaken. Can anyone confirm that?
Wait, Vern? Isn't she the Padawan?
For some reason, I've heard that she takes a Padawan of her own, and she's got a Padawan.
I don't think so. I think she's...
No?
Cause
It says that she is the apprentice to Stellan Gios.
Yeah.
Stellan Gios.
She is a Padawan. I haven't read A Test of Courage yet. I know she leads some people, but I don't think that.
I just remember hearing someone talking about how someone was being brought back to the Starlight Beacon, and they were going to become a Jedi, but they were like 10, and then when Anakin tries to become one, they kind of turn him away. And I just wondered if there was going to be anything to kind of like link those two events as to why.
Oh, like
no,
oh.
I think what you're thinking about is that girl that's in the comics, where she was suppressing her power, and she's brought back to the beacon with Yoda and the other younglings, because she helped them during on the ground. I believe when the Nihil started attacking her planet. Yeah, because she was pretty old. Not old, but you know what I mean. Like for a Jedi.
For what we would assume a Jedi would, how old Jedi are when they. I guess my question is that if she does become a Jedi at her age, it's maybe what happens with her the reason why they have such a fear of letting someone like Anakin become a Jedi.
That is a good point. Although I don't think that that's where her story is heading. Her plot is kind of set up in the first 2 issues. I think she really wants to do good. If she does somehow ruin things because she is too old, I mean, it would make sense, but I don't think it's going to be her plot point.
Sure. It just makes it a little bit strange in light of the conversation in The Phantom Menace about allowing Anakin to become a Jedi. If, in Yoda's lifetime, not that long ago for him, they just let this 10-year-old become a Jedi. I don't know.
I don't even think it was him that was wary of it. I think it was Mace that was initially wary of it.
Right.
No, but remember, the council approved it, but Yoda did not. Yoda and Mace both disagreed with the council's decision. Yeah, because at the very end, after the funeral, Obi-Wan is in the council chambers kneeling in front of Yoda.
Oh,
and then he says, "Agree with you, I do not, but the council agrees."
Yes, that is true.
But I think the overall distinction is not the age per se, it's the amount of attachment. And consider Anakin Skywalker. He is a slave boy whose mother, is, barely scraping by. They're both owned by, oh my god, I forgot his name. Watto the Toydarian, of course. How dare I forget that?
Yeah.
And on top of that, there's Jabba, and they're on this slave planet, and he has so many ambitions and wants and needs, and yet age does play.
Right,
yeah.
and for the longest time, it's just been them, the two of them, scraping by.
So
and kind of
that kind of makes sense for what the comic is, the IDW comic. It's a very similar situation, except that the other person that this Jedi or this kid is attached to is their same age. Sam, you really need to read that comic. It's really good.
I do.
But yeah, they are attached to their friend, and the friend...
I just wonder if maybe that attachment might lead to something... especially if we see, if there is big time gaps between the fate. Because, watching a kid go evil, that might be kind of a bit... Okay, that might be a bit too much. But if there is kind of maybe even 10-year gaps between, or 5-year gaps between the phases, we're going to see that kid become an adult by the time by the end of it, right? So that might be kind of a way to do that. Without,
there you go. It's the
Mike, you've read that comic, right?
I've read up to the second issue of High Republic.
Yeah, there's only 2. So.
Oh, there you go.
But you think that kid is gonna turn evil, because I
don't know necessarily. I just think that it's interesting that Yoda doesn't have a problem with her necessarily. It is a girl, right? A girl. But has a problem with Anakin.
I don't see the writing on the wall yet, but given what we just said, like the conjunction of age plus like want and attachment. There you go. That's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
Do I see it coming? Not really, but could it
Right.
go there? Absolutely, and I invite the opportunity.
Yeah, that would also connect with like you were saying, how it would connect with prequel era stuff.
It's perhaps learning the wrong lessons from certain teachings, it's or certain events, learning the wrong lessons from certain events. I think the Jedi are going to slowly be led by fear, and they are going to be taught lessons in how to change with the times. I just don't think they're going to pick the right ones, and I think it's eventually going to lead to obviously how they downfall in. I mean, we kind of see the downfall in the prequels, right? That's not really a mystery as to how they kind of lose their way, but we do know that there is an element of mystery between the High Republic and Phantom Menace for
Definitely.
sure. Does anyone have any closing points before we
I
wrap
think
up?
the close of the High Republic, it's not going to come in like one fell swoop. It's going to come in like bits and pieces. We've already established that per
Exactly.
Elzar Mann's vision, there's going to be some threat and some fear, like some external like opponent threat. But I also think there's going to be
Yeah,
like some
definitely.
Padawans or some Jedi Masters who are going to like do practices that they think is best, but not really. And in the end, the Jedi, they're not just going to be afraid of their enemies, but they're going to be afraid of, oh no, this master and this apprentice, they did this thing. So we're going to be we're going to hold that fear. Like, we don't want that to happen. So,
Well, perhaps afraid of themselves.
right,
Perhaps afraid of extending out a certain parts of themselves in fear that what they
right,
might do.
absolutely.
That's no. I think you might have hit the nail on the head there, Mike, with that one, and it seems like a really good place to close out. So, if you want to join the discussion, please head over to our subreddit r/Great Hall of the Nihil, or you can join our Discord, the Starlight Beacon, which I'll link in the description. And Mike, do you want to take us away with the outro, please?
Absolutely. We hope you keep riding the storm all the way to join us for the next episode. And remember, everyone, we are all the Nihil.